this video, I'm going to show you how to use HVAKR to plan a retrofit. Essentially, for this project, there's an existing fan coil unit, and I want to determine if it has enough capacity for a new space schedule and space layout. Here are the plans. Over here, this is the old layout. The existing conditions are one fan coil unit serving a dressing room up here and an office space down here. The new floor plan is still a dressing room here, but this office space is being split into a reception area over here, and then this is going to become an electronics room. So we need to adjust the space types and the space requirements to get new loads and determine if the existing fan coil has enough capacity to still handle those requirements. Now, I have the existing fan coil data. The capacity is about 50 MBH cooling with a 35 MBH sensible, but because this is such a small project, I'm just going to model the old and the new so we can see a side-by-side comparison of the loads. Let's go ahead and do that. On the spaces step, I'm going to create my spaces for the conditioned area. So this right here is the dressing room space, and then this over here is the old office space. I'm going to define these. This is my dressing room, and then this right here is my office. Let's get those names in there. Dressing, office. Now, the new space schedule is going to be similar. I can copy the dressing room and bring it over here. That's not going to change. And then this space has changed. So now I'm going to have a reception area right here, and then I'm going to have an electronics room right here. And this is going to be the big question mark. So this being reception, it's not unlike an office space, but this electronic room over here may have some additional internal loads that I want to account for. Let's make this the electronic room, and there you go. So with these spaces, if I select this electronic room, I'll be able to see what some of the default occupancy numbers are, the required ventilation. I am going to adjust the miscellaneous sensible cooling for this room in particular, but just for context, where do these numbers come from? Reception, 5 people. Let's go back to space criteria. I set up these space types with certain design requirements. So for each of these space types, there's an assumed set point. There are ventilation requirements for each. Most importantly is the interior loads. So the dressing rooms have a certain people density, people load, lighting load, and equipment load. For the electronic room, because this is the big factor, I've actually zeroed out the watts per square foot, and I'm going to enter in what that miscellaneous heat output is for the equipment in this electronic room. There's a couple ways to do this. You could put in a watts per square foot if you don't know the exact numbers. Maybe 3 to 5 watts per square foot is going to give you a good estimate for your equipment load in this room. Another way to do it is to go straight into the space and enter in what your miscellaneous cooling load would be. So let's say we know what equipment is in there, and we know that it adds an additional 5,000 watts of heat output. That's what I'm going to put there. Because this is an interior space, I don't need to worry about the envelope and assigning exterior walls or windows. These are fully enclosed. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to zone these separately so I can look at the loads side by side. So I'm going to create my old zone, and it'll take into account those spaces. And then I'm going to create my new zone, and that's going to be these spaces here. So now when I go to my loads summary, I can look at the old loads. Right here, I've got 1 ton, about 12,000 BTUs. And then with the new, I can see that I'm at 2.6 tons, around 30,000 BTUs. And if I'm looking at a breakdown here, I realize that the miscellaneous sensible, that's that electronic room load that I added. That's a big factor in why this would potentially need to be upsized. So here's my new zone. If I break this down, I can see dressing room versus electronic room versus reception and how that shakes out. If I need to go back to space criteria to adjust some of these numbers and adjust the number of people, I can. But this right here, just going from old to new, gives me a really quick assessment of past capacity versus new required capacity. Now, like I said earlier, because I actually have the unit data, I can determine right away, even without doing the old load calcs, if there's enough capacity in this unit. And so right now, I'm looking at a cooling capacity of around, again, 50,000 BTUs total, 35,000 sensible. I can look at my new loads and see that I'm at about 23,000 sensible with about 30,000 total. So this gives me the thumbs up. This unit does have capacity for this new space schedule.